All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome, everybody, to the NOA Community Call number 4. This call will be recorded for future use. So if you say or do anything weird, then you'll be held accountable forever on the internet. Keep that in mind. All right, let's get started. So, rough agenda for today is posted in the announcements channel. We'll start off with a quick fun update from HodlerCon. Nick and Marceau and I were able to meet up in Hawaii, and we had some fantastic chats there. And some of them were inevitably related to the Node Operator Association. Some of them were a little bit more general and just kind of random, but it was a fantastic event. And so, in the future, whenever that happens again, I highly recommend everybody take a look at that event. Um, so the To segue here, one of the things that we talked about in HodlerCon was the legal status of the NOA. So there was some discussion really, really early on when we started this whole thing about what the NOA should look like from a legal perspective. Do we need an entity? What would the entity look like? What are the responsibilities of the DAO, and how will that relate to everything? So, um, Nick and I have been hard at work doing some research into the legal side of everything, and we have some updates there. Nothing concrete, but I think at this point we've sort of come to a place where we want to present things to everybody and get your perspectives before we move forward with anything. So I'm going to go ahead and let Nick give a quick update from his perspective, and I'll jump in too if I have anything else to add. Go ahead, Nick.
Hey guys, yeah, so we sort of started by taking a step back and saying, what do we anticipate the NOA sort of evolving into in the longer term? And if we plan on being a entity that is interfacing with multiple protocols across the ecosystem, ingesting Ether, RPL, any other type of collateral token, and then distributing it, what does that mean from both a development standpoint and just a sort of legal risk standpoint? And we came to the conclusion, at least for now, that we will need to be building infrastructure at some point to interface with these entities, and to do so in a trust minimizing, preferably totally non-custodial way, to ensure that our operators aren't incurring risk around money being classified as a money transfer business or some other type of business that requires a lot more compliance reporting around it. So that necessitates, as I mentioned, development work, which means that we need to be hiring developers, which requires an entity, as well as paying for audits and all the other good stuff around that, right? So if we need to be, sort of custodying some form of capital in a treasury, what does that imply? And do we want to be? Another core question would be: does the protocol or does this organization itself want to be generating any revenue to fund that activity? And I mean, this is something we can all debate on, but our initial thoughts are that yes, we should probably be doing that. A, generating revenue, B, having a treasury entity that can legally interface with others. So in that vein, what we want to explore are various strategies as to how to achieve that in a way that allows us to basically remain sort of like a nonprofit entity, one that is not looking to profit off of this activity, but at least to be able to ingest capital from external sources, whether that's grants. If we really wanted to raise capital from investors, we could. I don't think we, at least Wander and I, do not want to be doing that, but it's an option. Um, and then, of course, if the NOA wants to say, charge a small, 5-10% of rewards fee to participating node operators to build up a treasury for investment purposes and infrastructure, as well as say, let's think about maybe building up an insurance fund of some sort in order to offset potential sloshing losses. That could also be an option. Um, so in that vein, we're going to look into a number of different legal entities, both United States based as well as a more global view, just in case that there are options that are a bit better, maybe based in Europe. And that might be something like a general nonprofit. It might be a UNA, which is something that the guys at A16Z have been doing a lot of research on, which is basically an unincorporated nonprofit. There's multiple ways to look at it, and there's multiple ways to structure these things. And if anyone in this call has a lot of experience around the legal structuring side of things, I'd love to chat more with you. And I don't know. I'd like to segue this also into some upcoming stuff with Rocket Pool specifically, because they are actually, they've been working on their SaaS contracts, right? And this stuff is really exciting and will allow us to basically achieve some of our goals way more efficiently than if we had to build a bunch of infrastructure ourselves. But before I move on to that, were there any open questions? Okay. Yeah, so over the last, I think, month or 2 months, Langers has been chatting with a number of entities, including, myself. Oh, sorry. Who's the request there? My apologies, I missed that. You want to raise your hand again? Hey, Rhett, come on up. I know you have a lot of
Um,
experience with this.
so uh, let's connect offline. But there's a crypto startup that I'm close with that's doing a lot of this for communities. Basically, it's some DAO tool stuff, but they also, as part of it, they create the legal entity organization, and they're using basically the co-op legal structure, which allows it's been around forever, and it allows some members of the co-op to be anonymous, which is nice for crypto communities, etc. I could connect you with them and on the legal entity structure side of things, and I think that might be one possible good avenue to go.
Yeah, I would love to chat with them, and thanks for the connection, Rhett. Appreciate that.
Yeah, just ping me after and be happy to chat.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, so moving on to the SaaS contract. So this is, at least for the time being, referred to as the supernode. So Langer's has been interfacing with a number of folks for the last couple of months, and also working with, I believe, with Kane on some initial designs. And he's going to be releasing a paper sort of description of the product soon enough. But I think he just gave me permission to share that with everyone, so I'm going to be dumping that into probably general soon. But basically, the supernode is pretty exciting. So the supernode can be managed by any individual entity, corporation, whatever, and it essentially is a smart contract that manages a number of participating node operators. So this is a sort of a product that's tailor fit for the NOA, or for an individual business that wants to manage flows of capital non-custodially. So it allows the supernode to receive deposits of Ether or RPL from various investors or individuals, DAOs, whomever. Those people who are contributing capital have to be whitelisted by the manager of the supernode. So it is a whitelisted service to start. And once that capital gets allocated to the supernode, the RPL is staked at the supernode level. So the collateralization happens at the supernode level. And then the individual node operators, who are whitelisted again and are members of this supernode, are then able to call deposits, basically depositing into the beacon chain and spinning up validators. The supernode can also manage the number of validators that are allocated to each individual node operator. So it effectively acts as the node registry that Lido uses. The supernode can also do things like basically apply a economic policy to all the participating node operators. So it'll charge some form of fee skimming on the revenue streams, and then also redistribute those rewards to the participating node operators. So in our case for the NOA, if we wanted to sort of generate revenue in order to support a treasury, in the long run, we could say take 10% of the total rewards of the ETH stream. The NOA would get 5 to 10% of that 10%, and then the rest would be sent to the respective node operators who are running their nodes and spinning up those validators. There's a lot of details around how all of this will work, but at a high level, it's just really exciting because it provides a totally trust minimized, non-custodial solution that anyone, especially in the United States, would need to avoid trampling on any issues legally.
Hey Nick,
Yeah.
we received some preliminary materials from Rocket Pool surrounding the design of this. Is that available to share with the entire community, or is that still?
Yes. I'm gonna share it after the call.
Fantastic.
And yeah, so anyways, it's pretty exciting. I don't have a lot of visibility into exactly when that's going to be coming to market. My guess would be late December this year or something like that, or maybe early next year. But it's sort of just what we're looking for, and longer term as we look into investing and building our own infrastructure to interface with other protocols, we probably want to mimic a lot of the functionality that they're building in the supernode. One other cool aspect of the supernode is that I've been sort of raising my hand with Langers and saying, hey man, like we have there's gonna be significant issues around liquidity around with validators and people entering and exiting. Are there ways to manage that? And the V1 is going to basically have a mechanism where someone who's an existing investor in the supernode, be that on the RPL or ETH side, can raise their hand and say, hey, I want to liquidate 20%, 30%, or all of my position. And then other node operators, other investors who are participating can decide to sort of buy them out over time with their own reward streams. So there's sort of some cool features around that, and maybe in the longer run will allow for more effective swapping in and out of the system. But that's the quick, dirty overview. Hopefully that's exciting to everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much for giving the Rocket Pool SaaS layer overview there, Nick. Any questions on any of this before we move on? All right. Feel free, of course, to throw your questions in the. Oh, thanks, Nick. He just posted the PDF for the preliminary design of this to the channel. If you have any questions, feel free to either type them out or just raise your hand. Oh, I see somebody's typing, so I'll wait a second. Oh, maybe not. Okay. All right, well, let's move on.
I put the wrong document up. I'm going to put in a new document. That's the draft. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. All right, so let's move on. One of the things I wanted to bring up is the outstanding bounties that the EF has open for a staking guide. This is something that is extremely relevant to the NOA and all of the activities that we as an organization and all of us as individuals are probably going to be interested in. The overall idea behind this bounty is that the Ethereum Foundation wants to incentivize a single kind of canonical document for best practices surrounding Ethereum staking. And that includes everything from security to software to hardware to just everything involved in staking. The legal stuff is going to, of course, vary by jurisdiction, but there can be some basic advice or sort of overviews of that stuff in there as well. In general, this is a really good opportunity for everybody who is a part of the NOA to consider putting in some work, and you'll be working for the Ethereum community at large, and the Ethereum Foundation is providing this bounty. It's open to anybody. So if you're interested, just let me know or any of the moderators know, or you can ping James from the EF. He's also on this server. If you, as a community, I'd also like to sort of bring up something that I think might make a little bit of sense. They've been having trouble finding people who are incentivized enough by this bounty to actually go through the effort to create this. I believe they set aside a good chunk of money for it, and the work necessary probably wouldn't be more than a few dozen hours, I would think. But if the community is interested, so given that the EF is having difficulty filling this bounty, one thing that we might consider from the NOA perspective is adding to that bounty, since it's so also useful for our group. It's not just the EF that cares about this stuff, it's also the NOA and all of us as individuals. So that's something that I just kind of essentially am suggesting to the group. We do have a treasury that we can set some stuff aside. We do need to be very careful because it's a relatively small treasury from the donation drive that we did earlier. But we do have a little bit available, and I do think that this would be a great place to kind of incentivize and get some people to do work that would be very helpful for us, but also in general kind of get the NOA's presence and name out there in the Ethereum community. So this is something I think we should, let's just chat about this and talk, more deeply over Discord in the coming days. If you have support, or if you're, don't feel like this is a good idea, then please, everybody, just let us know. It's not like the money is, going to go away if we don't use it. So if this is something that we don't want to allocate anything towards, then we don't have to. But we have plenty of other things that we could end up using the money that we have for. So this is just one suggestion that I have. So would love to hear everybody's thoughts on it. So with that in mind, I also kind of wanted to open it up more broadly and say there are lots of different things beyond just this one staking guide proposal from the EF that could be done to help NOAA. So if you can think of any high level bounties that you think would make sense, we could start setting aside, as long as everybody sort of agrees that this makes sense. We could put some money behind things. It's like I said, our treasury is not big, and we really should be very, very careful about how we allocate it. Nick and I are pretty sure that we're going to need to save some of that money for legal fees to set up an entity that we can use for future operations. But if there's any high priority work that needs to be done, then this is a great opportunity to incentivize that work. So anything to mention on bounties or discussion surrounding the subject before we move on? Right, I'm not seeing anything, but so I'm gonna keep moving. Next up, I wanted to mention the application that Ken put forward recently for DevCon. He had a great idea, which I'll let you go ahead and explain everything talked about him. Ken, would you mind stepping up to the stage?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
yeah.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, perfect. Trying to just work out a couple of technology things here in the end. So great to be here. Sorry I missed the early ones. So one of the applications, it's a speaker application I put in, was for a panel discussion at DevCon, which is going to be in Bogota, Colombia in October of this year, I believe, if I have the dates correct. And the topic I thought we would include is invite representatives from the various staking platforms to be members in a panel, and the topics would be questions that would be asked by the Node Operators Association about what benefits or what advantages that each of their staking platforms provides for a node operator to make them more informed about what choices they have in choosing a platform to stake with. Meaning, should node operators say just be totally independent and only solo stake among themselves, or should they use a protocol like Obol or Swell or Rocket Pool, or should they try to qualify as one of the permissioned node operators in the Lido platform? And so I submitted an application in. They allow 60 minutes for the panel discussion, and we can tailor a little bit of the questions to kind of match whatever topic we're thinking of.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much for taking that on, Ken. Really do appreciate it. On this subject, this is another really great opportunity for the NOA to get its name out there in the broader Ethereum community, as well as furthering our goals of getting more people involved in staking, more people involved in the NOA, and also providing an opportunity for staking platforms to advertise the unique elements of their own products. So I think this is a win-win for pretty much everybody. So hopefully the application is approved, and if so, then we'll have to discuss organizing this panel and doing a little bit more work there. But that's if you're interested in helping out with that effort, then Ken has sort of taken on the role so far, at least, of organizing this. So thank you, Ken, and we'll have to just see what they say. Anything else?
Yeah, we got the application in on time. They extended the applications, which I was going to take favorable that they're looking for more speakers. That was July 5th. They extended it to. I don't know when we'll hear back, whether approved or passed. Where they passed over us. But it sounded like maybe within 30 days or so, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that sounds good. So we should know relatively soon, and that gives us enough time to sort of pull things together. I think we have a pretty good relationship at this point with basically all of the staking protocols. Many of them are as of yet unlaunched, and so I'm sure they're going to be looking for an opportunity to advertise and get their names out there too. So I think this is a fantastic idea. So thanks again, Ken, for putting this out there. Appreciate you spearheading that.
Yeah, thanks, Ken.
Yeah, glad to do so.
All right. Next up on our agenda for today, I'm keeping things moving because we have a busy schedule today. But the next thing I wanted to talk about is another good opportunity to get the NOA name out there. I spoke to JT of ETH Finance fame while we were at HodlerCon a couple weeks ago. And he seemed very excited about the NOA, and he seemed very supportive and suggested that we do an AMA on ETH Finance to kind of advertise and get the word out, but also to see if we could get some more people who are interested in contributing. The NOA at large is sort of slow moving because we're so decentralized, but the more people that we can get involved, the faster things will end up going in the end. So I think this is a really great idea. If one of the things about this though is that we're going to need to sort of organize it a little bit, and one of the things that we need to do in order to do that is make a post probably on the daily about the NOA and get people essentially interested and involved and move from there. So we have there hasn't really been any concrete work done on this besides the idea at this point, but I think it would be a great thing to crowdsource over in the branding channel. That's a perfect place for us to talk about what this post should look like and try and coordinate a schedule time when as many people from the NOA can pop into ETH Finance as possible, so that we can get a great discussion going over there. So on that topic, just head on over to the branding channel if you have any thoughts there. We really need to get that post going at some point. So please help out where you can. Next up here, I wanted to talk a little bit about certification. We are still kind of in the same spot we were last time with certification. The certification is probably the biggest blocker in terms of our efforts to connect with other staking protocols, that and the legal side of things. So Nick and I are working as best we can on the legal side of stuff. I think that we've sort of come to a point now where we really need to be speaking to legal professionals, and we'll do a more formal verification, like a little bit more formal poll to make sure everybody's okay with any kind of legal fees that we end up, if we want to go down that path. But on the other side of things, we really do need to get our certification program to the point where it's at least in a good draft state, so that we can speak with these other protocols and say, this is what it takes to be a NOAA member, an NOA member, and you can be sure that we're going to provide this level of reliability based on these particular set of criteria. So if you're interested in helping out with that, it's mostly sort of a research task. At this point, I've sort of written up a draft of everything. There's a document that's circulating, but we really could use as many eyeballs on it as possible. I've been doing some thinking about the certification process on my own, and I think that there's a few different ways to approach it. We sort of started with the level 1, level 2, level 3 idea. Given that we may be initially forming a legal structure and even maybe, as long as the lawyers say it's okay, manually shuffling some transactions around, we need to be very careful to make sure that we're only sending it to people that we really, really trust. So we might want to work backwards. This is sort of my thought from it, is start from the front and say, what do we need for the most trusted members, and then maybe try to back into it a little bit and say, okay, well, how does someone become a most trusted member? They need to have a history of this, a history of that, and over time, especially as we do some more smart contract development, we can potentially get the validator set to be a little bit more distributed, and send people a little bit of money and allow them to build trust that way. So I wanted to sort of open up the floor here. If anybody has any topics on or questions, comments, anything on certification, because this is something that I think is really crucial to the future of the NOA. Anyone have any thoughts on this? All right, no worries if not. I'm kind of springing it on you here, but if you think of something, definitely help us out by posting it into the P&O reputation system channel. That's where a lot of the discussion for the incentives and game theory and trust requirements have been taking place. So this is something that's really holding us back, but also something that pretty much everybody can contribute to. So we'd really love to see some other contributors there. So from here, I'm going to move on to, I'm getting 1 second here. So there's Derek from Data Nexus posted a question here. It's a little bit related to certification. Is the NOA specific to EVM chains? And that's a great question. We haven't really limited ourselves explicitly, but I think that everybody here is Ethereum aligned. If there are any opportunities outside of the Ethereum chain that people are interested in pursuing, I'm not going to really say, personally, no, let's avoid that. But I do think that in general, we're probably mostly focused on the Ethereum first, because we started as an Ethereum community. But that's a good point. I agree, Wisebud. I think, if there's any and all opportunities are on the table, really. So it's not like this group really has to be committed entirely to one thing. But this is a great topic of discussion. I see a bunch of people chatting away, so I'll let you keep going there. But I'm going to go ahead and move on, and we can come back to this and have a more open discussion at the end too. So I wanted to talk also about the Swell integration that is ongoing right now, the work that we're doing to integrate the NOA with Swell. Brass Lion is not able to make it right now, but Brass Lion and Wisebud have been working a little bit on this. Wisebud, do you want to come up and chat about it a little bit, or do you want me to just give the update? All right, here, I'll bring you up. All right, welcome to the stage, Wisebud. Hopefully I'm saying your name correctly. We cannot hear you if you're speaking. you still working on the microphone there? Oh, okay, you lost him. We'll see if he can come back here in just a second. I'll give him
Looks like
just
he's
a little
typing.
bit. Oh, okay. Yep. All right, we'll give him a second. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and move on, and we'll come back to this. So, next up, I wanted to invite Owlot to the stage to talk a little bit about the network monitoring program that we've started discussing. Owlot, are you able to chat about that for just a little bit?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I created a document together with Ben V and what's his name? Well, don't remember. Too many people. But we brainstormed a little bit about what could be possible and what's like, what can you ask from a node operator to run, basically. And what we came out on was that in general, you don't want to have anyone need to install anything to do monitoring, and there are already great open metrics that you can find about if a node is performing well or not. So we should probably just use those, and those are really the APIs you already mentioned. So I think that's really a good start to just use those and see if a node is performing well. But we can, if node operators do want to have a service, we can set up like a central server where everyone can just push their metrics and do some kind of monitoring there. But the problem, well, some people think it's not a problem, but I do. You cannot really use those metrics to determine if a node is doing the right job, because you can really spoof the metrics. So that's mainly the reason that it's more like a service than anything else. But if anyone else has different opinions about that, then I would like to hear about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for you and for Ben V, both of you and everyone who's been doing the work to investigate what network monitoring would look like. From a personal perspective, I think I agree that it is pretty easy to spoof your metrics, other than the on-chain ones, of course. Those are probably going to be pretty tough to spoof. So I think that if we're going to move into any kind of requirements outside of on-chain ones, it probably would sort of be a secondary measure, and so we will need to think about what our potential partners would like to see in terms of the reliability of our network, and probably use that to inform the metrics that we gather. But there's Aula, did you post the document somewhere? That I think I remember.
Yes. I was trying to find it. I did post it somewhere. I thought it was a channel about also the reputation system. Is it in there? Yeah,
Oh,
I did.
see it.
It's in the reputation system. Yeah.
Yep. So that's just for anybody who's interested in taking a look at that. I think this is a really great overview of just some preliminary research into this stuff. So I appreciate everybody who's Real Steel and Ben V for taking a look at that as well. So if anyone else is interested in looking into this stuff, feel free to contact any of those three folks, including Owlot. And thanks so much for your work on this so far.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think Weissblood is back. Let's see if we can get the swell update going now. You want to try your microphone again? Oh, it's not working. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. Well, okay. Well, unfortunately, it looks like Weissbud's mic isn't working, so we'll have to move on. But if you get it working, just ping us in the chat there. For now, I think the last thing on our agenda today is the Q&A session, basically, or just an open discussion. So this is where the time we've sort of set aside to pretty much talk about anything. So any questions, any comments, any just random initiatives that you think that we need to bring up, to talk about, to focus on, now's the time. So feel free to raise your hand or just post something in general if you have something. I'll give folks a couple minutes here to think about it. All right.
Derek wants to chat. Come on up, Derek. Can't hear you yet. Still nothing.
Can you hear me
There
now?
we go. Yes.
Yep.
That was the on the microphone mute button, not the computer mute button. Always gets me. One question that I had, just in terms of other people, especially operating from within the Rocket Pool network, we've received some interest from an investor who wants to gain exposure to Ethereum staking, but doesn't necessarily want the exposure to the volatility in the price of Ether, which is, a little bit of an oxymoron, but part of the solution that we were investigating was, if someone were to buy, a couple thousand Ether and then also at the same time short that exact amount, they would essentially have kind of a neutral exposure on the purchased Ether.
Yep.
And then utilizing that to then run some staking pools. Obviously, if we were to run it on a 16 Ether validator or a 16 Ether node matched with other people in the staking contract, then we could still gain the profits coming from the actual staking operation. If that was reduced, I vaguely recall a forum post in the past talking about reducing the 16 amount to a lower amount, which would be far more interesting in this type of model. But I just wanted to see if anyone has experience or has looked into this type of a model, because obviously when you're doing that, you're essentially purchasing more, you're expending more capital, so your returns would be a little bit less. But if you could still multiply them on multiple validators, that would obviously still be attractive.
That's a great question. So what? I guess I'm a little unclear as to how you would be able to get, or what the proposed model is for getting. Is the goal essentially to purchase ETH the one time, and then sell it to a validator who is willing to provide, essentially purchase it from the person in exchange for, some portion of rewards?
Yeah, I mean, this is it'd be more of like if an investor wanted to avail themselves to staking exposure, they could purchase X amount of Ether, send that to us. We could start running the validators, within the Rocket Pool system, and then at the same time they can also, short that same value of Ether. That way, if the price fluctuates, one side, it's just like a scale. One side goes down while the other side goes up, and vice versa, type of thing.
Oh, I see. Yes, actually, so it's funny you bring this up because, I'll back this up and say on the private side of things, I am starting a financial technology company that provides investment funds, and the first product that we'll be launching is just a very straightforward Rocket Pool investment fund where people write a check and they get quarterly reports, and we take the check, we buy Ether with it, we stake it on Rocket Pool, and the fund grows in value. But this is not the first time that I've heard something similar to you. Some of the investors that I've spoken to say, I really like the idea of investing in this space, but the volatility is too crazy, and I don't really want to be fully in. I want to kind of dip my toe in. So, is there a hedging strategy? And so this is actually very similar to one of the potential second products that my company is potentially launching. And that would be a product that does exactly what you're talking about. It just sort of all contains it within a single investment fund, so that the investor doesn't actually have to do the self-custody elements, and they just write the check and fill the form out, and then they're done. So that's certainly a model that I'm setting up to be able to accommodate. And if you're interested in talking to me privately about that, I'd be very happy to do so. But that's also something that I think that we could potentially help people with as a community too. I know that there are others here that are looking for, they're trying to do similar models to me. Nick is taking a little bit of a different approach with his business, but just in general, I think that it sort of shows the many different investors that are looking to get involved in this space, and how stakers and validators can cater to all of them. So I'm glad you brought that up. I'd be happy to chat on a more private level if you wanted to connect with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they planning on? Are you thinking about using perps or something to hedge yourself, or for them to hedge themselves?
And not totally decided at this point. Where it's still kind of an early thought of is there a way to mitigate the volatility and hedge against that before really diving down what would be the best plan of attack.
Well, I guess you could hedge out the ETH. The question is can you hedge the volatility and the actual rewards? Which I don't know.
You could provide dividends. That's something that I've looked into as well. And you couldn't necessarily in between cycles of dividends, but if you gave a dividend out regularly, you could. And that's something that I've been, like I said, I've given this actually a lot of thought, and the fund structure that I'm setting up would support something like that.
There's also an interesting product that's still quite nascent, but it's called, I think, Alchemia, which is sort of this capital market solution for. I think they're going to be targeting dApps and stuff who want to hedge out gas volatility by allowing people to basically purchase, an allotted set of validator, or in the case of proof of work, just a bunch of hash rate. I can send you that information. There may be some kind of play with them that could work interestingly, but yeah.
Is that just spelled like alchemix, but alchemia?
Yeah, it's spelled ALKIMIYA.
MYA. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Brett.
So I think some of you might know I work for a crypto asset manager. It's kind of my day job, and we do some similar things here. So happy to kind of discuss with you. If you do the perp option, the nice thing is you usually get paid to take the short side of ETH perps because everyone's bullish, as they should be. But the other thing, we actually have a couple of products that are kind of like a step in between, where you say, we'll take an underlying asset like ETH or Bitcoin or whatever, and then you just sell covered call options on it. And we have a whole options team that does this. And you don't fully get to market neutral, but you basically blunt both the up and the downside. Where, in a bear market, you're still earning yield. And then obviously in a bull market, you give up some of your upside. And you can get pretty good yield out of those while kind of becoming a little bit closer to market neutral. So that's maybe an option too, if they wanted to go kind of in between. For instance, we have a product that all it is Bitcoin, and then we sell covered calls on that Bitcoin. And it earns something like 1.5% a month on those call options that we sell. But you give up upside in a bull market. So in a market like we've been in recently, it's been nice for those investors because it blunts the downside pretty significantly. But if you're really bullish, you don't want to do it. So that's another kind of possibility where you just say, hey, we spin up a bunch of, rocket pool mini pools, and then we sell covered call options on those assets to, Genesis or something. but yeah, I'd be happy to connect offline if you want me to even connect you to our options team, and they could kind of discuss with you kind of strategies and things like that. Would be happy if you'd find that helpful.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Yeah, actually, I would love to be involved in that conversation too, as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'll set up something with both of you and anyone else who wants to be part of it as well.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Any other random topics? Feel free. It can be pretty much anything. No need to limit yourself to what we've talked about so far.
So I have something that I wanted to kind of run by people here, if that's okay. So a few of you know, Wander, obviously, you know that me and a few people are working on a lending protocol. It would, at its base, be a liquidity fork for our ETH and other staking derivatives. The goal is to kind of be a catalyst for growth for Rocket Pool and then other kind of minority staking solutions. One of the things that we've been talking about doing, and it wouldn't be fully trustless, but it would help serve that goal, is basically allowing some whitelisted node operators to mint our stable against their node as collateral. And for obvious reasons, it wouldn't be fully trustless. It would be almost more similar to kind of these MakerDAO real estate deals. And then we would just take really conservative kind of parameters. I just kind of I wanted to hopefully get a sense of like if anyone here would be interested in participating in that if we supported it. Now, just FYI, our application is not live. We're planning to go live probably this fall, and like I said, it would be zero cost borrowing against productive ETH, and then in this case, maybe zero cost borrowing against your node. I just wanted to kind of get a sense if people here would find that interesting if we supported it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention. Rhett sent this to me privately in advance, and I am definitely very interested. I think this is kind of a really cool idea for people who are looking to be a little bit more productive with their mini pools, which I'm sure is a lot of folks here.
Yeah, Rhett, this is Ken. I'd be interested in that.
Awesome. Ken and others who would be interested, feel free to add me on Discord, and I'd love to kind of chat a little bit more in depth with you about both your interest and kind of what we're thinking this would look like, and so we can get a sense of just how compelling it would be.
Yeah, will do as soon as I get back to the office.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming up today, Red. There's quite a lot, I think, that the NOA overlaps with the project that you're talking about. It's for everybody's reference. I think that the project's decided to name itself Radiant Finance or Radiant.finance. And you can follow along with their development. They have a Discord server. I encourage everyone to take a look, especially if you're involved in Rocket Pool. But they're sort of more, not just Rocket Pool specifically. It's just a stablecoin lending platform for staked Ether assets in general. So very, very, very cool project, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that takes off and integrates with both Rocket Pool and other staking platforms, and potentially in the future we might be able to find a way to work NOA into the equation as well, or the NOA.
Appreciate that, and would love any of you to join the Discord, and if you want to contribute, great, or if you want to just kind of be part of the conversation, that'd be awesome. But no pressure, but would love to have any of you join us.
I already have done. I just haven't yet delved into it, so looking forward to doing that.
Awesome, appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we've got about 8 minutes left here on the schedule, and I definitely want to respect everybody's time. I know everybody's got a very full schedule, so and I'll need to jump off then too. So, um, any other topics that we want to bring up? I just see Weisbud is posting some stuff on the chat channel, but anyone else want to chat or say anything about any random topics? Now's your time. All right. Well, I'm hearing nothing. What I can do, actually, I'll fill up at least a little bit of this remaining time by mentioning just my perspective into the Swell integration stuff. I'm not working as deeply on it because I have too many other priorities, but I'm kind of monitoring the channel that Brasslion and Weisbud are using to chat with Swell about things. My sense of things is that, and from what Brasslion mentioned to me before the call, they're going to try and put together a group application the next couple of weeks here, and also collate some information about how any individual members of the NOA can participate in the testnet, and sort of recommendations for how to do that and how to set up your test node and get involved in Swell, because it's probably likely that Swell is going to be a lot more amenable to the NOA if we have people who are actually operating these nodes in advance. That might be one of the things that they require us to do, in fact. So I would not be surprised at all to hear that they would require us to do some testnet running for some amount of time. So that's one thing to sort of get the jump on if you want to potentially be involved in that. And if you want to help with the integration there, then feel free to let me or Weisbud or Brasslion know. They're all working together on trying to get the NOA connected to Swell. So, all right, one final call out before we go. Any questions? Any comments? Any random topics you want to bring up? All right. I think that's it. Well, thanks everybody. Really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for stopping by. We could always use more people working on the NOA and our collective efforts towards making the Ethereum space more amenable to stakers and building up the staking community. So thanks so much. Really appreciate it, everybody. And we will see you next time. Stay involved. Thank you. Bye.